Hi and welcome to this video in the MRDCL Central Working Smarter series, and in this video we're going to be looking at managing, editing and running MRDCL files. So I've opened up already the MRDCL Central user interface and you can see I've got a script here open already. Now it's a good starting point is to click on this button here and you can see you get a list of all the files that have been recently opened. Now just to explain how MRDCL Central works with the original MRDCL, which we've now called MRDCL Classic, you can run any script you want to still from MRDCL Classic or the original MRDCL, just as you always have done, but if you run it inside MRDCL Central you'll get some benefits which I'm going to take you through now. So in this video we're particularly going to be focusing on file handling, looking at outputs and some of the other things that you can do when editing your scripts. So let's just work through these icons first of all, and the first one here shows me a list of recent files. So it gives me a list of all the files I worked in date order. So this is the most recent file that I worked on, and you can see it's called Cen-02.stpx, and you'll also note that the file extension here is stpx. Now that's something new that we've introduced to both MRDCL Classic and Central. That the reason for that is now if you've got an X on the end of the file extension, it means that's the main run file. So it's only there for your convenience. It's not compulsory. You haven't got to call your main run file stpx. You can just use it stp as you always have done. But the reason for implementing this is that particularly where there's a project with many STP files where you're perhaps inserting 20 or 30 different STP files into a main run, it can be difficult to locate the stpx file or the main run file that you want to use for a particular project. So by giving it an stpx extension, it identifies as the main file for that project that you will be running, rather than just an insert file that has no control stage effectively. So let's look at this. So this is a list of all the files that I've opened in MRDCL Central in sequential date order. And you can see there's some colored buttons here coming up. So these green buttons mean that the last time that they were run, a run was successful. So if we come down here, you can see there's a blue button here. Now that means that light blue button means that it has been run successfully, but it's been modified since we last run it. So it may not run next time, it might do, but it might not. If we had a red button, it would mean that it didn't compile last time or it crashed in run. And this grey one here means it's a new file that's never been run at all. So you've got some color coding here to indicate sort of the status of the last run for each of these files. You'll also see there's a little icon here which is to pin it or to choose it as a favorite. So if I click this here and move that button over, it becomes blue, and that means that becomes a favorite and stays at the top of the list all the time, regardless of the last time it was run. So that's quite useful for a project that perhaps you're running every week, or you're running regularly, or you're just currently working on at the moment. So that will just stay at the top of the list, and whether it's your favorite or not, of course, is another in question entirely. If you want to see the most recent projects you've used running under the classic window or the original MRDCL, you can click on this icon here and it will tell me all the runs, again in order, that you will have run in the MRDCL Classic. And you see there's 184 different files there. Let's move down these icons a bit further. I'm going to go back to this list now. This here allows you to create a new STP file in the folder of your choice. So if I click on that, it would let me open a new STP file. This here will open up an existing STP file for me, so I can just browse and open an STP file. And if I've got a project where there are multiple STP files in one folder and I want to have them all open, I can click on this icon here and this will open multiple STP files in a particular folder. So it'll just move me to a folder and open all of them. And that can be quite useful if you perhaps got a project where there's insert files, you perhaps got your code in 4 sections, for example, and you can just move up and down this list then and move from the sections and see your script in this window here without having to file, save, open and browse in your Explorer perhaps to find the files. So it's a much more convenient way to work if that's the type of project that you're working on. Now you'll see there's a plus button here. We're going to come back to that in a minute, and they're covered in separate videos, but that's a button that allows you to import from SSS and SPSS. That's not covered in this video, and you can see that on the videos covering those particular topics. All right, so we've looked at the buttons down here. We've looked at favorites. We've looked at the meaning of the colored buttons. You'll also see on the right-hand side here now that we've got a color-coded editor. Now, when that perhaps first went in there, it might have looked like a gimmick, but believe me, it really does make a difference to your productivity. You can see your script so much more clearly now. You can see the types of variables. You can see the locations more quickly. And if you've got any preprocessor code, that also stands out as well. So it's a much easier to navigate around your script to find your variables and your definitions. And if we go down a bit further, you can see there's more arithmetic here going on. And if I browse through, you'll see that things jump out of here. And you can see there's some preprocessor code here and the starts and finish of each section highlighted, and the preprocessor commands are highlighted as well. So a little bit more easy to navigate around your scripts. If you want the fonts to be a bit bigger here because you want to see more or less on a screen, you can just zoom in with this plus and that makes it bigger, or you can just use the minus here and it sets it back. And if you want it microscopically small, you can click there and make it smaller and smaller. So that's how you can control what you view on the screen. You'll see there's a whole set of commands here for cutting, copying and pasting. I'm not going to go through those and deleting. They're pretty much like any other piece of software that you might come across for managing your scripts, but you can edit all your scripts in here just like you can in any other editor. Now, when we run our runs, you'll see at the top here we've got run buttons here, so I can run this script if I want to. So I'm going to run it now quickly. Click OK, and you'll see it quickly. You saw it there flash up with the MRDCL Classic interface. It ran that, and what it does now, it keeps all of the outputs in these files in a convenient form. So if I want to look at the tables, for example, you can see it tells me now I've got 9 tables. I can click on them, and again I can view those tables just like I could in any other editor. If I want to see them in a CSV file, I can just click on this and it will externally open Excel for me, and there's the same tables in Excel, so that's nice and convenient now. And all the other files that it generates, like the summary, the log, the listing file, the report file, so I can see I've got 831 records here. The table of contents are all convenient. All these files are very easy to navigate now and work around, and I can just click back to the editor if I want to get back to the editor. So working with the runs after you've actually executed them is much more efficient now than it would be when you're working in an Explorer. And finally, just in sort of navigating around the user interface, I did avoid using this one here, which was open the tables in an XLSX file. Now that is producing hyperlinked formatted tables in Excel. That topic again is covered in a separate video if you want to know more about that. But finally, I'm just going to take you around this subfiles option here because there's some things in here that are new. So if I click on the subfiles option, and you can see I've got different options here. So I'm going to first of all click on this icon here, and this tells me some of the shortcut keys that you can use in the editor. So search is Control F, Control D, delete a line, and so on. So it's worth getting familiar with those so that you can use some of the shortcut keys in the editor. Let's click on the project subfiles. This will tell me any subfiles I've got. Well, I've not got any subfiles for this project, but if I had a series of insert files attached to this particular STP or STPX file in this case, I will be able to view those and click through to those. And finally, if we click on the variable icon, you can see I get a list of variables come up. And if I want to look at those in a bit more detail, I can click on, here's the gender variable, the first one. If I click on this icon here, it tells me it's a single variable, and I can look at the labels down here. And I could click on question 3 now, and I could see the 14 answers for question 3. Unclick that and question gender disappears. So I can look at my text without actually having to open my script. I can see effectively what MRDCL has stored for me from my run that I've just completed. So that's an overview of handling files in MRDCL and navigating round a project and opening up multiple files, viewing it in the editor, looking at the outputs. You've got some icons up here as well so that you can delete files, and similar to MRDCL Classic, you can tidy unfound files or just tidy the whole list if you want to. So I'll leave you to explore those. But hopefully that's given you a good overview of how to use or navigate round your projects using MRDCL Central. Thanks for joining me.